Hello, and welcome to Starting Points, where one thing leads to another. Well, all this talking about farming and horses and things like that used on the farm made me think of Wendell Berry. Might have made you think of Wendell Berry. He's been a pretty prolific writer. He's born 1934. He just turned 89, and last year published a novel and this collection of essays, this one on the bottom, this thick one, which reminds me of something from Charlotte's Web. And that may have been what he was thinking too. I don't know. I won't go into details. Now, he was born on a small farm in Kentucky by the Ohio River. Went to school, graduated, went to college, graduated, went to California to take part in a writer's workshop sort of thing, and he ends up meeting Tanya. Now, the two of them get married. And then he gets jobs teaching at certain universities around. But he has a connection, having grown up with that farm, with that land. And I don't know the details. Maybe his parents died, and rather than sell the farm, that was maybe a factor. Maybe it had nothing at all to do with it. But he moves to the farm where he'd grown up and starts to farm it. He also manages to be hired to teach at the University of Kentucky, literature. Now, I don't know how he managed to do it. Write all those books, farm, and teach. But he did. So hats off to him. Now, you can read on Wikipedia about the details in his books. He wrote essays, books of essays. He wrote novels. He wrote 3 short novels that were collected in this book. He wrote short stories. He wrote poetry. Well, he probably was good at time management. I don't know how he could do it all. But anyway, now, if you'd like to find out about his wife, Tanya, I came across a really neat article. It was a fine article about her. If you go to search for, and then search The Woman Beside Wendell Berry, the most important fiction editor almost no one has heard of, you'll read a fine description of her and their relationship and their growth together. Now, I want to go to a book called The Gift of Good Land. And this was his 3rd book about essays, cultural and agricultural. And I want to read you a couple of things from this. I've got a bookmark here. Let's see. Yeah. All right. This will give you a little feeling for him. Just a few days ago, I finished up one of the heaviest of my spring jobs, hauling manure. On a feedlot, I think this must be real drudgery, even with modern labor-saving equipment. All that waste and no fields to put it on. But instead of a feedlot, I have a small farm, what would probably be called a subsistence farm. My labor-saving equipment consists of a team of horses and a 40-year-old manure spreader. We forked the manure on by hand, 45 loads. I made my back tired and my hands sore, but I got a considerable amount of pleasure out of it. Everywhere I spread that manure, I knew it was needed. What would have been a nuisance in a feedlot was an opportunity and a benefit here. I enjoyed seeing it go out onto the ground. I was working some 2-year-olds in the spreader for the first time, and I enjoyed that mostly. And I thought that little mostly just indicates that sense of him that he's aware of what he's saying, and he tries to qualify it and be honest about it. And since there were no noises, fumes, or vibrations, the loading times were socially pleasant. I had some help from my neighbors, from my son, and toward the end from my daughter, who arrived home well rested from college. She helped me load and then read The Portrait of a Lady while I drove up the hill to empty the spreader. I don't think many young women have read Henry James while forking manure. I enjoyed working with my daughter, and I enjoyed wondering what Henry James would have thought of her. There's a certain wondering in his essays and in his writing altogether that leads him to dig a little deeper, ask some questions. And now the 16th essay in this, published in, they give the date for each of these, 1980, says going back or ahead to horses. Well, I thought I'd share a little paragraph from that. While the experts have been raising such a fuss about the impossibility of farming with horses, a good many farmers scattered all over the country have quietly gone back to using them, just as thousands of Amish farmers have quietly continued to use them, with results pleasing to anybody who will look. Well, he goes on to meet with a farmer in Kentucky with 182 acres and about this idea of renewal of interest in working horses, and he gets some good advice comparing things to the use of Massey Ferguson and so forth, tractors, and then he is in contact with Maurice Layne, whose 60-acre farm is in Iowa, where he and his wife edit the Draft Horse Journal. His wife's name's Janine, and he gets ideas from Maurice Maury about comparisons of costs and upkeep and how much bales of hay and how much this, and some real helpful information. And then Maury gives him 8 suggestions. Number 1 being, don't be carried away by the fad of bigness. Supersized horses will be more expensive than smaller ones, both to buy and to feed. And it goes on, there's 7 more. And all worthwhile things to consider. Then, because the Amish were mentioned, there actually is an essay in here about the Amish. Essay 23, 1981. 7 Amish farms. Just read a sentence. Yeah, it's one sentence. The remedy has been a set of farming practices traditional among the Amish since the 17th century. Diversification, rotation of crops, use of manure, seeding of legumes. All 4 of those we've looked into. Anyway, I got another book I want to share something from. This is called Citizenship Papers. And he's got one page here talking about the domino effect is what it was. It doesn't say that, but I just hit upon the phrase. What's happening, what happens to rural communities as farmers leave the farms, they can't make a go of it, and so certain losses happen. Obviously loss of people, loss of the community people, and that affects all kinds of things with a continuing industrialization of agriculture, which is both a cause and an effect of the loss of population, loss of self-respect among farmers as their income decline, loss of farms, loss of dealerships, repair shops, stores, loss of local schools, churches, and other community institutions, loss of political representation, loss of doctors and other professionals. As that community slowly pares down, it affects all domino effect. And then there's this that again I think you might enjoy. He wrote about, mentioned his daughter, who is living in the same area and farming as well now. Last summer, my granddaughter, Virginia, who was 11, put in some long days on the tobacco setter. She was good at it, and all of us were pleased with her. She told her mother, "What is good about hard work is that it teaches you about little pleasures." She said that when the weather was hot and a little breeze came, it made her happy and she was grateful. I think this is something very important to know. I hope that when the time comes, this knowledge of little pleasures will preserve her from the common assumption that pleasures have to be big, expensive, and dangerous. I am thankful that she could learn this in the same way that her parents and grandparents learned it, meaning him. I am thankful that we have continued so far. He learned it from his grandfather and father, passed it on to his son and daughter, who passed it on to his granddaughter, and hopefully that will continue. I just thought that was pretty. Is there something else in here? Yes, there is. There's this wonderful little. Some time ago, I received a letter from New Mexico that offered the following dialogue. There may be more to it, but this is the part that he wants to quote. "How do you train horses? Question mark. Which one do you have in mind? Question mark." And I thought, yes, we've talked about that horses are individuals, that birds are individuals, that dogs are individuals, cats are individuals, pigs. And working with animals, you have to like to do it, and you have to show that you like it to the animals so that they will respond in kind, I would imagine. Now, there's one other book I'd like to share with you. It's called Our World by Wendell, and I just very, very minimal in here. One result of replacing human workers by industrial technologies is joblessness. So I thought that was a good point to make. Well, while I'm here, I'm going to put a plug in. Because if you look up on Wikipedia, as I say, it tells you a little something but if you were going to start with a book, I would highly recommend Jayber Crow. It's, in my opinion, a wonderful, wonderful novel. Jayber appears in some of the other novels that he's not the feature person, and I mean, there's Hannah Coulter or Old Jack, and but I think this might make a nice starting point. Well, thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.